Series 11, Episode 6, Demons of the Punjab.
Oh, yeah.
She got more, yeah, she got more stuff. It's hard to say. She did get focus, and that's good. We didn't get much with the Graham Ryan story this episode. Um, we did get
Yeah,
more
but they've been kind of hammering that in like every
Yeah, they've been.
episode.
Yeah, we didn't get. That's sort of. We stopped that, and we got more history with Yaz. Um,
And just generally more history.
what?
And just generally more history.
Yeah. But
Is it me, or is Doctor Who starting to get a little bit political?
it kind of has a little bit. It. I mean,
Seems
I don't mind if you do it through. I
allegory.
Yeah, allegory is better because then it's more timeless. I mean,
Well,
I understand that
technically,
these are particular historical events and whatnot. I like the allegory better because you can then, make it more generalized. Um,
Yeah,
but especially, well, it's not so bad with historical things like this as much as it is with if you try and do stuff that's, you know, you're trying to talk about things that are currently going on because it really dates the episode. And so historical things you can still go back to a certain
yeah,
extent. You can still go back to and say,
I'm sorry. I'm just thinking of some of those classic historicals like the Romans.
okay. But a good historical episode, it a good episode holds up even if the graphics, even if the the costume and all that doesn't quite hold up, the story still does. Like Genesis of the Daleks. It's a little, it's a little, it shows this age in what, in set design. Now they did a good job, but you can tell the era, the sort of the era it's from. But but the writing is very good. It's one of those things where, yes, it's not a historical thing, but like a good episode in general, you can go back to and it holds up no matter what. If you try and get too on the hot button of the moment and you try and tell it from a present perspective, or or you get too close to a present thing, it just it dates it and it doesn't make it the timeless thing it needs to be sort of the thing Doctor Who needs to be. And we have gotten a little, you know, like in the Rosa Parks. Okay, there's a lot of politics of race running around right now, but okay, that it's a fine. It's one of those things where it's fine, to cover that. So long as you don't go overboard and try
As
and,
long as you get preachy about it.
yeah, as long as you stick to the historical nature of that time and don't get preachy about today. Like you can have great allegory stories. You don't even really need to have they don't all have to be allegories to to teach a lesson. They don't all have to be. I mean, Blink didn't really teach a lesson except for now you're scared of statues, but
yeah, pretty much.
and
And
dinosaurs
making
on
it
a spaceship.
and you're making people who have never even seen Doctor Who scared of statues just from telling them stories about it.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
like, yeah, it's just there's lots of episodes of Doctor Who that have no lesson whatsoever. It's just a cool story, you know.
But then they aren't really like allegories so
Yeah, yeah,
much.
yeah. They don't all. That's why I say they don't all have to be allegories. Sometimes they're just good stories, just cool, interesting science fiction. You know, yeah, but you can tell the you know Doctor Who does have the option of, because they can go science fiction, they can go and talk about things in allegory that that other shows may not be able to, because of limited of where they are, when they are, that sort of thing. When you can be anywhere and any when, and you can have science fiction elements like the Cybermen or the Daleks or something like that.
The Daleks themselves are actually an allegory. The Daleks were created as an analogy to the Nazis.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, and they've even managed to have interesting stories like, was it just title was just Dalek in the Ninth Doctor's run. Um, you are a good Dalek, Doctor, and that sort of thing. Where the Doctor's realizing just how much of a effect the war has had on him, and how much he's sort of let himself slide from where he wants to be. And so and that's something that the Daleks are interesting to just sort of. They're recently in New Who. They've been a lot of them have been trying to hold up a mirror to the Doctor himself and say, "Oh, better watch what you're doing." Trying to keep him, basically, as a way of sort of keeping the Doctor in check and making him watch what he's doing. Because when he gets off on his own ego, we get things like Time Lord Victorious. It's like, okay, Time Lord Victorious. Let's not. The rules of time belong to me, and they will bend to my will, or something like that. It's like, okay, you gone off the
For
deep end
I
there,
am
Doc.
Greg.
What?
Or my name is Greg, so time belongs to me.
But yeah, I mean, you can do that, and it wasn't. This one, the while it was a significant part of the story, the episode, the conflict, it sort of just simmered a little bit, and then just didn't really do anything with. They didn't really do anything much with it until like the end, with the with what happens at the end. You know, then when you get the partition in, and then the gang, the sort of murderous gang comes in, and it's like they what they sort of okay, don't do that. That you get the lesson of the episode, but it's mostly, every once in a while you get a little kick in of it from the younger brother, but mostly it's the end. The rest of it is the the Watcher sort of demons of the Punjab,
Mm.
which was an interesting twist, because usually when you
Yeah,
have assassins, you know,
I like those aliens now.
Yeah. Jack was afraid of him at first, and then I'm like, no, 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 keep watching. Because, I'd watched it before he did
yeah,
first. And they actually gave him a jump scare at first. He leapt back in his seat when he saw them at first. I'm like, hold on, it's okay. They're not scary bad guys.
Yeah.
And
But that was an interesting thing because usually, I mean, admittedly, it was a. I don't know if it was a. Was it a class? Were they ever classic Who, or they just popped into
they're
existence for
new as
this
far as I
episode?
know.
What?
They are, as far as I'm aware, they're new.
Okay, so yeah,
But
so
I can look it up.
yeah. Usually they, monsters, the monsters of the series don't really change. You don't get, they don't. They're stuck in their way, and they're going to be who they are. I mean, how they get there might change. With the Cybermen, might become from this or that, but the Mondasian Cybermen or the Cyberdyne Cybermen.
The main enemy of the episode is listed as Manesh. Manish.
Oh, yeah. I guess that's as much enemy as you can have, I suppose. Because, uh, yeah, he's totally on to the yeah. I don't.
Yeah, they have only been in Demons of the Punjab.
Yeah.
Punjab.
Yeah. Well, it's
I do really like Asian names,
there are
like Indian and Japanese especially.
there are some interesting, like, Punjab is a very, I guess it's the job of it makes it's a fun word to say.
It is
Um,
fun.
some of them aren't quite as nice, but
Some of the phrases in Urdu are fun. Urdu,
hmm,
but I don't know much Punjabi.
ah, I don't know any Punjabi.
And I always confuse which one's which.
Yeah,
Because they have like 60 languages over there in just India, Pakistan. They're all similar, but different enough to be considered different languages.
But what was I gonna say? Uh, what was I- okay. Yeah. One thing I was worried about with this, this episode coming into it is like the I'm not a fan of them crossing over their own timeline.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
always a dodgy thing to do, and I wouldn't think the Doctor would.
especially after what happened with Rose.
Yeah, it's like, have you forgotten what happened with Rose? Okay, the 12 told you to be, you know, try to be nice, but never fail to be kind. And as dangerous as it is to cross your own history, it might have been kinder to, not. And say,
Yeah.
yeah, I know you want to, but that's dangerous. I mean, they to meddle with that in a way, but I forget which way they kind of like it. I think doesn't it vary basically on who's writing it, how the rules of time really work, whether it's you can mess with it or anything you do was supposed happened anyway already, and so you know anything you did outside of like killing somebody would be fine because it already happened. You're already
As
part
long
of
as
the
it's not
history.
as long as you're not stepping on any butterflies.
Yeah. Um, and it seems I always find it also interesting about these sorts of things when they do go and meet somebody in the past, like like they do here, and then meet them again later in their lives, or do that would you know them remembering the you know
Event.
the event. It's like
I was wondering slightly about that, but then keep in mind
this is
it was a
one time, and
very
it was a very busy day as it was.
exactly. They were only there for what, 24 hours, if that.
Yeah,
And
24, 36 hours, something
there
like that. Yeah.
was a lot more going on than
Yeah.
just what the strangers looked like. And Umbreen never saw the doctor, Ryan and Graham in the present to trigger that thought. And so seeing Yaz back then, okay, it doesn't really register because she's just one random person she met while facing all that other shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was though there's two ways to look at it. Either, there was so much other stuff to go on that she wouldn't have remembered her very well, or that because, so much stuff was going on, she would remember. If somebody was that, in such an important, part of her life, such an important day of her life, that she would remember the people that were there. But, and again, she's also
Although
had Yaz growing up, watched her grow up. And so, that slow transition to where she starts to look
yeah,
like herself, it may have been sort of slow boiling and didn't realize it because she was just, oh yeah, it's just Yaz. And do you really, and, not knowing that there's time travel even exists, it's like, it would look really, even if she did recognize her, it's like, you know what? You look a lot like this woman we had, that was around, at this point in time. It's like, you look a lot like her. It's weird. You know, it would, it, that would be a weird thing to say. So, even if she did recognize her, it would be, because as far as she knows, time travel doesn't exist, and so she'd look a little crazy.
Yeah.
yeah, like Graham said, who's who would believe it if they told him, you know?
Yeah. No,
So why would she say that? Because who'd believe her with that?
yeah. And yeah, so overall, it would just be a, well, her memory of it is probably might be fuzzy enough that, you know, she looks like there's a lot of women in that era that looked in that area in that time that looked like her. So I mean, and it was way back when, and there's no such thing as time travel. So she just happens to look a lot like her, sort of thing. Though the clothes, I guess, though the clothes might have been an interesting thing. It's like, wait, I remember that was a no. There's no time travel, no such thing as time travel, so it couldn't have been her. It's just a really weird coincidence that she looked like Yaz and she was wearing clothes like Yaz. I'm just gonna leave that be because I don't want them thinking I'm going senile.
It's too late for that, Grandma.
There's another link between Ryan and Yaz then, because they both have pretty badass grandmas. I mean, Race was really awesome. She was basically a human version of the Doctor. And then Umbrine, as we've found out, still pretty awesome.
What next? We're gonna see Graham's Graham.
I doubt it.
Oh dear Lord.
Well, you know, all this bad stuff, you should, you should just not marry him. It's like, excuse me? I have seen children die from starvation and all this, and I'm not letting that anything back down. Make me back down.
But lost my train of thought. Oh, the other thing was sort of while I'm thinking about it. I don't know, but did they just flat out move their? I know the story because of the companions, and the Doctor seems to be from the north now. Have they moved the Doctor Who production from Wales to Sheffield? Is that what's going on? What?
I do not know.
But yeah, not that I'm complaining. I love a northern accent. I don't know why. I just like the northern accent.
Dude, Sam is my favorite character in Unit for a reason, okay?
But we kind of see what we've covered. Okay, she goes back. We find out that having the demons of the Punjab, that the Thigerians or whatever, we find out that they've gone, that they're killing people, their assassinations. Yes, they've made themselves perfect assassins, but that's also made them, the perfect target for, being attacked by others, because they're like, we're done with you. We don't want any more assassins. Go away. And so they kind of got their comeuppance, and then they went, oh yeah, we were kind of being jerks, weren't we? To be nice about it, to be G-rated language on this. We were kind of being jerks, weren't we? And then they're like, that was a nice surprise.
Yeah.
Especially,
the entire world get turned to ash. Kind of a good wake-up call.
Yeah,
unless your name is Nero.
It's quite.
And then you go back in time and try to destroy those who you feel were to blame.
Yeah, it's very. It's an interesting turn, It's like, yes, now we witnessed those who die alone. It's like,
and the Doctor has issues with witnesses. He in her 12th incarnation, he was he had the same problem with another set of witnesses during Twice Upon a Time with the glass people.
Oh yeah, the glass people. It's like, yeah, it's kind of almost written along the same lines. It's like, do these two just kind of show up at the same time? It's like,
Maybe they tag team. It's like, I've got a 3 o'clock here. It's like, well, I'm not doing anything. I'll take that one. You sure? Yeah, I got it. All right, cool. I'll take your 4 o'clock. Sounds like a plan.
Well, it is a great big universe, and we're all really puny. Just a tiny little speck about the size of Mickey Rooney.
Mhm.
It's an Animaniacs reference.
I know.
Okay.
I can't wait for that to come back.
Yeah, it was just so, just everybody sort of mostly laid out on that one. It was like, am I the only one that remembers that? uh, but yeah, the whole gist of the whole episode is she learns that, yeah, the the watch is important, but it isn't from her grandfather. It's so her grandmother had a little more of an interesting life than and had a more interesting possible life if things hadn't gone awry.
Yeah.
But
Those potentials.
what?
I said those potential futures.
Yeah.
I gotta say, this episode gave me a bunch of emotions. Like, I was really sad and also really angry.
Oh, over
Brother
that
asshole.
brother.
Yeah. And
It is sad, but that is actually a pretty common theme in history.
No, I mean, I was mostly sad for the aliens. It's like people can screw off.
yeah. I don't know. It was an interesting episode. It's not like anything groundbreaking, but it was okay. Um, the the twist with the assassins turned watchers. Those that was you know. And what makes me also interested is um if I'm gonna take this thought with the assassins to a full extent, wouldn't it be interesting if like a lot of the psychopomps of religions, like some of the psychopomps of religions came from them, like the spirits, the things that were supposed to guide spirits to the afterlife, if somebody just walked up on them, doing their witness thing, and they thought, oh, they must be the psychopomps, and so they sort of, that led to some of them, and the description gets lost down the ways, and they start turning into whatever it is, people see as a psychopomp. Grim
Yeah.
Reaper,
I've never heard of
Angel of
a
Death.
psychopomp.
What?
I've never heard of a psychopomp.
It's a general term for essentially kind of the Grim Reaper. It's essentially in like It's a way to talk about, for any religion, it's their sort of being that once you die takes you and guides you to the afterlife. It's basically chauffeur of the dead. Just sort of, you die, they come, they take you to the afterlife, and that's what a psychopomp does. It's one of my favorite words. But
Mhm.
so, Grim Reaper, Angel of Death, that sort of thing. Anything where they, they drop the dead off at where they're going to be judged, and say, "Well, that's my job done," and they go to get another one. Or help spirits move on to that if they don't directly chauffeur them there. They help them sort of transition from life to afterlife.
Hey, they finally made a hey, look, I'm a girl joke.
They've made a few of those. They've been they've been not enough to be distracting. Like, they do them every once in a
Yeah, but
while.
this is the first time they made it. They referenced it as a joke specifically.
Like,
You
it
know,
depends
oh,
on how you're,
yeah,
how
yeah.
you're defining a
I,
joke. But like,
Mhm.
the the whole, I was a Scottish, an old Scottish guy an hour ago, sort of thing, and the woman who
The Grey Haired
fell to earth.
Scotsman and everything. So,
What?
and ma'am, get used to that.
Yeah, and come to mommy, that sort of thing.
Come to daddy.
Mm.
I mummy.
It's
Yeah,
a side note that I didn't realize until I watched a clip the other day, a couple weeks ago, that was kind of like, well, duh. I realized where the doctor got "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry" for 10, where 10 got that, and it's from the Doctor Dances, and it's what the the girl who's the mother of the "Are You My Mummy" kid.
Nancy.
Yeah, I forget what her name is, but she says, you know, she's hugging him and saying, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry," and then everything turns out okay, and then everything else happens. But that's I think that's where they got that. Maybe coincidence, but it's exactly what 10 says every time somebody is in deep doo doo. But
yeah. And I think I realized like Dex doesn't have a special connection with the new doctor. She doesn't have a catchphrase yet.
There we go.
we all, I kind of miss that a little bit. I mean, 12 didn't have it per se.
And you didn't like 12.
I didn't hate him.
Yeah,
the
I
catchphrase,
mean,
like, the catchphrase is of a lower order than the sort of type of doctor. Again, I don't say that I don't appreciate what Capaldi did. The writing was fine. The acting was fine. It just, that type of doctor, the grumpy doctor, is not my favorite kind of doctor. I don't hate him, but he's not my favorite either.
he
And there are
just
some really
didn't.
good episodes with 12. Heaven Sent, that sort of thing. Yeah, there's a really good episodes with him. But yeah, you know, get Fantastic, and then Allons-y, and then Geronimo, and then nothing. And then we find out War Doctor has Gallifrey stands. And that's his
No, his
Geronimo.
X-ray was no more.
No, when they're about to do the freezing Gallifrey in the in a moment of time, they each of them says sort of their phrases. 10 says Allons-y, and 11 says Geronimo, and then the War Doctor comes. Oh, for goodness sake, Gallifrey stands. and slams his into action. So I think that's where I'm getting that from.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, she doesn't have a catchphrase yet. She doesn't even have fantastic, which wasn't a call to action sort of catchphrase. It was sort of a ah, I think that's cool, so I'm gonna call it fantastic.
Oh, fantastic.
I liked fantastic, but yeah, she doesn't. Again, it's that
You like it because he has a northern accent.
quiet you. Um,
You're not denying it.
quiet you.
That's secretly the reason why you actually you like he's your favorite because
He's
of
not
the
my
northern.
favorite. Nine's not my favorite. I like him better than you do, and I like him better than a lot of people do, seem to, but he's not my favorite. That's sort of a toss up between 10 and 11, but I like him possibly better than Capaldi. It's right in there, but it's just 13 hasn't really established herself yet, and it might take a while. She might have just one of those personalities where it's going to take a while to establish what her thing is. 12 was grumpy, 11 was goofy, 10 was sort of swashbucklery and kind of
I think
suave
hers
and
is
cunning, and
more
9 was all burnt
empathic.
out from the war. It's just
I think hers is more empathic because if you've noticed, she comes across as kind of nice.
eh. I don't know. I just need to see more episodes before I figure out for myself whether what I see as her deal, and for her to have a very common deal, like something that she always does. Just 6 episodes isn't enough to really form a coherent pattern with her sort of thing. The empathy, maybe that'll turn up, but as her thing, but it's
Although I
still
think
the sample size is still a little too small
although
for
I
that.
think empathy isn't so much her as the general setting of the TARDIS. Because she's not the one who it's more of the scene to garner empathy rather than to her having the empathy. Because this season has been more feelsy than most of the other doctors.
I'd have to think about it, but
So
I don't.
not specifically her being more empathic or more feelsy,
But
but the
the,
stories themselves have been written in such a way as to garner more empathy for the characters and more for the monsters than anything else.
well, it depends on the episode. Because One Who Fell to Earth, Tim Shaw is not really empathy,
Not Tim Shaw or not Tim Shaw or
or the racist in Rosa, or
well, they
didn't
didn't
really.
really have a bad guy exactly in the Ghost Monument, but the actual monsters, aside from Tim Shaw, were pretty pretty misunderstood, I guess.
Well, and the guy from Rosa, but
He
and
wasn't
they didn't really have much empathy for, you know, was it
Ting.
Robertson from Arachnids in the UK, and they didn't really seem to have much. She she didn't have like proper empathy for the spiders. She's like, no, I'm just gonna lock them in a room, let them eat each
Yeah.
other. It's like, I'm not going to
saying
be merciful
she
with this
had
giant one that's
empathy.
slowly dying a painful death. I'm going to make it suffer till it dies slowly and painfully. He's like,
I didn't. She had empathy for. I was saying
well, I
the
mean,
stories were written to give the viewer empathy for the monsters.
eh, it's still too small a sample size because you still have two, at least two. I'm thinking through, one way, and at most four the other. So it's maybe not. We'll see. We'll see when we see the full series and what she's going to be. She just doesn't feel like she has a. Still doesn't feel. I mean, it would make sense to do an empathy based thing with her, considering that was the whole 12's whole problem was one of his big problems was empathy. He just she's my carer. She cares, so I don't have to. You that was one of his things. Um, so being a flip of that would make sense, but we'll have to wait and see what comes on in the rest of the episodes we get from this series and her doctor in general to really get a good handle on it. Anything else we want to talk about with demons?
Let's see. At the end of the episode, I was like half suspecting for the doctor's head to show up in their hologram thing.
Yeah, we've done that too recently with 11.
True.
So it's like, you know, we had that whole sort of death of the Doctor sort of time sort of thread with 11, and there it's only a couple Doctors on. We can't go right back to it, and she's got so many regenerations left in front of her that it doesn't really. I mean, maybe you could bring them back, bring it back at the end of her thing. They could come back,
Yeah.
but she didn't really. It's sort of a death, but not really. It's weird, but you could do that if you wanted to make one last sort of, when she's about to regenerate, the Watchers come in and watch her, on her own doing that. Though if they'd communicated, it would have been interesting to have sort of 12, be followed by the Watchers, or that sort of thing. But they kind of did that anyway with the glass people.
The glass watchers.
Yeah, the glass peoples instead of the assassin watchers. It's like you made two new character types that do essentially do some of the same things. Come on. But I suppose you got the Cybermen and the Daleks, and they have different ways of going about it, but they both want to exterminate anything that is not them by either assimilating it or killing it. But anything else with Doctor Who for the week?
No.
All right.